Eric, how are you?
I'm excellent as always. How are you?
Doing fantastic. So you just got away from shoot-around. Who's in, who's out, who may play, who may not play tonight?
It's looking like Mike Conley is questionable for the time being, but that's really kind of the only update of note. They've been kind of taking it slow with him in terms of rehabbing that right knee. They've been making it a policy to hold him out on the second night of back-to-backs. For now, playing it cautious, calling him questionable for tonight's game against the Heat, but I would be surprised if he is not out there.
Yeah, I know that they're being cautious with him, and that's wise, his age and what he's coming off of, but you would think he hasn't played since, what, Sunday? Was it Saturday, Sunday when he played?
Let's see. They played, Sunday against Dallas and
Monday against Dallas.
Yeah, played on the first half of the back-to-back,
right,
and then sat out the second one.
So yeah, you would figure. So maybe they just limited his minutes tonight. It feels like, Eric, and you're closer than me, but it feels like watching this team play that Mike is back and he's more, I guess, more comfortable in his role or fitting. I don't know if fitting in better is the right term, but he looks like we're getting kind of the production out of him, or the Jazz are, that we maybe expected to see earlier this year?
Yeah, it definitely took a little bit for it to happen, and I know for some fans, they still can't quite let go of that first opening stint to the season that he had where he was really trying to figure stuff out. But, I mean, this is a guy who's been in the league for 12 years, was doing things the exact same way for 12 years, and then all of a sudden, has to move his family cross-country, gets thrown into a completely different team, new teammates to learn, not only personalities, but, how they play as well. I mean, I've said it before, I'll say it ad nauseum until the point sinks home with people. Like, he was used to playing a certain way with Marc Gasol, and all of a sudden Rudy Gobert is like about 180 degrees different offensively. So, I'm glad to see that people are finally starting to come around on the fact that he's fitting in. He seems to have really picked up the system, that he's a productive piece of this rotation, that he's finally approximating kind of what we thought the Jazz would be getting with him when they made that deal.
Eric Walden's our guest here on the Bill Riley Show, Jazz beat writer from the Salt Lake Tribune. The one thing, though, I have noticed, and we've really focused on Mike's offensive game. He couldn't shoot it straight early in the year, the pick-and-roll stuff, playing with Rudy versus playing with Gasol. But to me, the one thing that does stand out is that he's not the same defender. He just is. And again, Father Time's undefeated, so you're never going to be the same guy. But I don't know that he's quite the defender maybe the Jazz they were hoping they were getting. Not bad, but he isn't locking on people like he used to in Memphis.
That's certainly a fair criticism, Bill. Yeah, I think that probably where we've seen the biggest slippage in his game has been on that end. And, that's been a part of this team's overall struggles in terms of perimeter containment. We've seen Joe Ingles not have the same level of success there that he's had in previous years. We've even seen Royce O'Neal really kind of have moments where he's struggling in certain matchups. And, not that Royce is necessarily on the level of an all-NBA defender or anything like that, but he certainly has been the best perimeter defender that this team has had over the last several years. And so, when you kind of get all of those things in combination, all of those things happening in concert, that's why we've seen things like that 5-game losing streak happen where, you can't be totally reliant upon having Rudy Gobert as a backstop, especially as teams are kind of increasingly playing this 5-out scheme, drawing him away from the basket. It becomes incumbent on these guys to, stay in front of their man a little bit more than they have. And, as you said, like Mike has certainly had a little more struggle with that than we've seen in previous years. And I guess, as you mentioned, him being in his 30s now, it's not totally unexpected.
Is the Mudiay-Clarkson bench mob going to be productive in the postseason, do you think, as it is in the regular season? I mean, they went for 37, I think, combined the other night. Mudiay got 12, and I think Clarkson got 25. Moody has never been, I don't think, a postseason player. Clarkson kind of looked like a deer in the headlight with the Cavaliers a couple of years ago. I'm just curious if you think what they're doing here in the regular season can carry itself into the postseason.
I really feel confident about what Jordan is capable of in the postseason. I mean, Emmanuel is a total wild card. As you mentioned, he is yet to play. He's yet to be on a team that made the playoffs when he was on it. And, he mentioned that was part of the appeal in signing with the Jazz. He figured they were a playoff lock. He wanted to get into that environment. He wanted to see what he could do in that scenario. We'll see. I mean, we still see things out of him that demonstrate that, there's ebbs and flows with his game. There's highs and lows. He's got a lot of positives. The consistency remains not there. Where I'm encouraged about what Jordan can do in the postseason, in spite of what we saw from him with Cleveland, is that it's a completely different fit with this team than it was with that Cavs team. When he got traded to Cleveland mid-season, really that system around LeBron consisted of a lot of give the ball to LeBron and everyone else goes spot up in the corner. And while Jordan has improved as a catch-and-shoot three-point guy, that's never been the strength of his game. That's never going to be the strength of his game. This team, with its ball movement, with its constant motion, with the quote-unquote blender that we always hear about, that fits what he does as an offensive player so much better. It gives me confidence that this scheme will enable him to produce, regardless of, when they're playing. Again, I don't want to overstate it. Jordan is not a perfect player. He's not a guy who doesn't have faults to his game. But, I mean, what an addition he's been to this team since they added him in December. And I don't see any reason why that should discontinue anytime soon.
Have you gotten a sense Quinn has maybe lightened up a little bit when it comes to – because the way Clarkson plays – sometimes isn't always the way Quinn would necessarily like guys to play. He's still got a little bit of a heat check type mentality. Has Quinn maybe warmed to the fact that maybe I have to live with that a little bit by bringing Jordan in?
You know what? That is an excellent question, Bill. That was something that we asked the Jazz front office after they made the trade and kind of explained what had happened in that sequence of moves. Because, as you mentioned, Jordan Clarkson has been known as a guy who goes off script. He's been known as a freelancer, and that certainly doesn't seem to be something that Quinn would embrace. And yet, here's Jordan Clarkson having this kind of success. It was fascinating to me to hear from Dennis Lindsay and Justin Zanuck that Quinn had inquired about Jordan Clarkson's availability back during the summer. So clearly this was something that Quinn had thought through in terms of, his ability to fit Jordan into what he's looking to do. And while he wants there to be a certain modicum of sticking to the system, especially, in specific moments, I think Quinn has definitely also embraced the fact that here's a guy who flourishes the most, who's at his most successful when you give him a little bit of freedom to operate out on the court. And does it result in the occasional, maddening possession where he dribbles for 18 seconds and, circles one way, reverses, to the other side of the court and finally throws up a 13-foot fadeaway jumper? Yeah, but at the same time, he's been so incredible in terms of getting to the rim, in terms of picking his spots beyond the three-point line. He could still stand to improve a little in locating his teammates a little more often than he does, but at the same time, they've got him in there for a specific reason, and I think everyone is kind of making it work to make sure that he fulfills exactly that role.
All right, a couple more minutes here with Eric Walden. You got the Miami Heat coming in tonight. They've they've added to themselves. They were a good team. They're looking to get better. Jay Crowder returns to the Viv tonight, and Andre Iguodala in as well. These are two teams, identical record, identical spots in their respective conferences. What do you expect tonight?
The Heat are definitely they remain one of the better teams in the league. They're interesting in that, they Jimmy Butler is clearly their main guy, but not a guy who puts up monstrous numbers across the board. I'm expecting it to be another tough game. I honestly am like a little more skeptical of these trade deadline moves that they made than a lot of people are. I honestly kind of wonder how much does Andre Iguodala have left at this point? I mean, it's a guy who's, 35, 36 years old, hasn't played all season, was showing some signs of decline even back when he was with the Warriors. I kind of wonder about the fit. You know, he brings a reputation certainly as a defensive stopper. I wonder if, like, the Heat maybe invested a little too much in a pair of guys who just are not really very consistent three-point shooters in Iguodala and Jay Crowder. I mean, God knows I love Jay Crowder from the season that I spent with him, dealing with him a year ago. He's an incredible guy to speak with, but there's no getting around the fact that he's shooting below 30% on threes this season, and he hasn't really adjusted his volume to compensate for that lack of success. So we'll see what kind of role those guys play. It'll be interesting to see whether they add to the Heat in the way that they're expecting or not.
Last thing, the Heat have been run by Pat Riley for basically the last 25 years. He, in a lot of ways, kind of began the success of that team as a coach and an executive, now just an executive. But I was thinking about this. I saw a piece this summer Dan Le Batard did with him, and I find Pat Riley's basketball life fascinating. He was an All-American star at Kentucky. He has his number retired at Kentucky. I don't know if a lot of people know. He was a first-round pick. He was an NBA champion with the Knicks. He had a 10-season run. He was a good player. Wasn't a great player, but a good player. Then he went on to be a 5-time champion as a coach, 3-time coach of the year. Eric, he took 3 different teams, the Lakers, the Knicks, and the Heat to the NBA Finals. And now as an executive, he's a 3-time champion and 2011 Executive of the Year. I was making the case earlier. I don't know if anybody has ever had a better basketball life or successful career than Pat Riley when you factor in everything that he's done. There have been players who have had great runs. There have been coaches who have great runs and executives. This guy's had a great run at all 3.
Yeah, you're not kidding there. I mean, and as someone who grew up watching those 80s Showtime Lakers, you know, I certainly have a special affinity for Pat Riley in my heart. Yeah, as you mentioned, you know, he's done it like at every level. The only guy who I can immediately think of whose success maybe comes close to matching him would be Jerry West.
Exactly.
In that, you know, he had the more successful playing career. From an individual perspective, I guess he won one title. I think he won something like 1-8 or 1-9.
He did, yeah.
Being matched up against the Celtics, but you know, what were you going to do against that Celtics juggernaut back in the day? Jerry West didn't necessarily have the same impact as a coach as Pat Riley did,
but he only coached 3 years. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, he definitely stuck with it a lot less. The two of them, I want to say, were actually introduced initially as co-head coaches of the Lakers way back when, and Jerry West quickly stepped aside and said, "No, Riles, it's all on you." You know, and then certainly Jerry West has gone on to have tremendous success as an executive, whether with the Lakers, whether with he kind of helped oversee this Warriors operation over the last few seasons. He's now working with the Clippers. We'll see what he can do with them. But yeah, Pat Riley, I mean, it's bizarre to me, you know, to hear you say he's been with the Heat for 25 years, because in my mind, you know, he's always the guy with the slick back hair wearing the Armani suits, you know, strutting the sideline for the Lakers. And he clearly has now spent far more time with Miami than he ever did with LA. But yeah, just one of the all-time greats in the history of basketball for the success that he's had in guiding teams to the very top level.
Absolutely fascinating. Read Eric Walden in the pages of the Salt Lake Tribune, and, of course, follow him online on social media as well. Hey, thanks for jumping on short notice. Really appreciate it.
Anytime, Bill.
Thank you. That's Eric Walden.